Day 13 of the Diddy trial, and if you are the state, you're probably very pleased with the way things have been unfolding so far today. I am Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I'm a New York litigator who has practiced in this very courthouse. I am attending the Diddy trial every day, so I can come to you and break down with a legal analysis as to what the vibe is in the courtroom, how the different strategies of the defense and the state are proceeding, and give you a feel as to what's going on inside a trial that few people in the world will ever bear witness to. Now, we spent much of yesterday with Mia on the stand. Mia is the pseudonym for a personal assistant who worked for Diddy from the period of 2009-2017, and she alleges that there were multiple forms of abuse that she sustained at Diddy's hand. Those forms of abuse include psychological abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse. She told over many stories of how hard she had to work, that the first day she worked for him, that she worked for more than 24 hours, and that sometimes she had to work up to 5 days straight with no sleep, and that she could never leave his eye line. And the objective of bringing her testimony in here, from the state's perspective, on certainly one hand here, is in support of the RICO claims. Now, under RICO, forced labor is a potential crime that can support a RICO charge, and they want to say that if she felt forced to abide by his onerous demands, that should qualify as being forced labor, and accordingly could be a valid element towards helping support a RICO charge. So we've heard a lot of stories about just how abusive Diddy can be and how he can be a jerk as a boss. And if you're listening to even 10 minutes of the testimony, it's very evident that he can be a jerk of a boss, like a very, very abusive boss. Before he starts getting physical, and then you hear about the physical elements to it, how he slammed a door on her arm multiple times, how he's throwing things at her, from a computer to an ice bucket, throwing her in a pool, chasing her around, taking her phone from her, and then ultimately to the sexual abuse. We closed out the direct testimony with her asking about the last time that Diddy texted her, which was roughly a year ago, around the time that these indictments first came down, and that she said when she saw the text, she had to throw her phone because she's been so traumatized by him and terrorized by him, and can't even look at a text message from him, even though it was a warm text message, because she was like, I knew that it was a lie and that he just wants something from me. And then finally she was asked, are you able to work? And she said, no, I have PTSD, and that got objected to. And the objection led to a rephrasing of the question so she can give a different answer. And she said, I try to work, but I can't. If I work, if I'm at work and someone asks me, where are you? I get an email saying, where are you? I get flashbacks to what happened with Diddy. If someone calls my name out loud from across the room, I get flashbacks and I start getting triggered and freaking out and terrorized and wondering what I did wrong. And I can't function in a work environment now. And who caused this? Puffy. That's how we closed out the direct testimony. Now, the cross-examination is being conducted by Brian Steele, and his style is rather different from the cross-examinations we've seen of other key witnesses that have come forward so far during this trial. We've seen Tenny Geragos, who handled the cross-examination of Cassie Ventura, and we've seen Agnifilo also cross-examining some of the other key witnesses, and the style that they've employed when they're dealing with someone who comes across as being traumatized, and Mia certainly comes across as being highly traumatized when she's talking about any form of the abuse. Not all the time, sometimes she can be gregarious, but when she's talking about any form of the abuse, she looks broken and small, and she seems like she can't even say words, that she's humiliated to talk about even the abuse, much less the sexual abuse, which she can get out 6 words, and they're very broad, vague words, like he put inside me. She can't describe body parts when she's talking about that. That's how traumatized she comes across as being. It seems to me and many others who are watching this, it seems very sincere when she's talking about it. I'm certainly not passing judgment at all. No one should mistake my portrayal now. I was trying to help convey the tone and nature, which is very different from the other times when she's talking, where she can seem relatively confident she come across as being relatively confident. Now, I started talking about the cross-examination styles of Geragos and Agnifilo, and how when they would approach these witnesses, who had been victims, who had been terrorized, and claimed to be terrorized by Diddy, their style was very conversational, like fact gathering, like police taking down, and then what happened, and then what happened, and why did you go here, and then what did you do? And isn't it weird that you did this? Like a People magazine interview, or like a police taking down information. That has not been the approach of Brian Steele, though, when it comes to Mia. Not at all. No, he came out kind of swinging, where he's like, so did he terrorize you? Yeah, and you say that he caused you emotional abuse? Yes. And psychological abuse? Yes. And financial abuse? Yes. And sexual abuse? Yes. And you're traumatized. You think about this every single day, right? Yes. And you're terrorized by him, aren't you? You're just completely terrorized by him. Every day you can't stop thinking about it. Yes. Well, okay. And it was like this throughout the time that you were there? Yeah. Yeah, well, here it is. Here you are 4 years into your employment, and you're writing posts about how you love him, about how he's your close friend forever, and you close it out, and he would have her read off these text messages designed, and he's like, and so let's read this post. You have a picture of you and the man who terrorized you. And what's her response? Her response has been, frankly, excellent from the perspective of the state. She seems very confident to read these posts, which she posted on her personal Instagram, and not at all uncomfortable, embarrassed about it, shy about it, or regretful about what she posted. And he's like, so here he is. He's like, can you read this off? And she's like, you're the king, you're the legend. It's such an honor to be working with you. Every day is a thrill. Love you. And she reads it in that tone, the way people who would be reading the Instagram message would likely read it. And he's like, so that's the man who you're traumatized by. She's like, yes, that's right. That's right. And then she'd show her another post, and she's like, this is Instagram. That's what people do on Instagram. You only write about, you're trying to present a life that's not true. That's better than your actual real life is. That's how people use Instagram. And plus, I know I'm being followed by many of his fans. I know that my family is going to see it. I want everyone to think that I'm having a great life. And yeah, every post here, I'm praising him. And that's how they all read. I also know he's going to see it. And I certainly don't want him upset with me. All of this rings true to those of us those people I discussed it with. It just comes across as, yeah, that's what people do on Instagram. You're not really making any sort of hay, and just because she's writing stuff on Instagram, that, you know, if anyone thinks that that's a genuine reflection of life, well, that just shows their naivete and their lack of internet 101. So in that sense, I feel that so far she's been holding up exceptionally well. She's been tested by Brian. In contrast to the other attorneys who would sort of be dancing around as to how do I get to information that I want to get without potentially crushing this witness or looking like I'm bullying this witness who the jury likely thinks is a victim already. His approach with this witness, who on the direct seemed the most vulnerable of all, his approach of Brian Steele is more direct than anything we've seen from the defense, and frankly, she's handling it without any sort of hesitation or uncomfortability, and presenting herself very well and very, very logically that this is what people do. And she was asked, how do you handle if you're traumatized by this? Do you think about this every day? Well, yeah, you can't get it out of your mind. Well, when you're there, you don't seem to be thinking about it every day. You're posting this your own personal Instagram. She's like, you can't. She goes, you never forget it, but you can't think about it, otherwise you get punished. And that was another way of her flipping the question into actually helping support the point that the state wants the jury to take away, which is you have to put up a front. That's part of the compulsory element of working for Diddy. All in all, so far, I would tell you that she seems to be very well prepped by the state. Very well prepped. She said that she met with him, Brian Steele alleges, 25 times, and they seem to have her very well prepped for how to handle and present herself as someone who is working past these issues now. In fact, when she was asked, how do you cope with this on a day-by-day basis if it's so terrorizing that you can't function? So she's like, you try to put it out of your mind. Ask my therapist. I don't know, I'm not an expert on psychologically how people handle these things. I'll just tell you that you try to put it out of your mind, you try to move along. So that's what we got so far. Like I said, she's handling herself very well so far. It'd be interesting to see how she holds up over the rest of the day. We do expect this cross-examination to last through the balance of the afternoon. If you like this type of content, please like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. It really, really helps the algorithm, and it makes me feel good. So I'd appreciate it if you could do that. Until next time, take care, Godspeed.